who is, like I said, the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, replaced his...
You are just really good at pronouncing names. I have to compliment you on
names is one of my things.
Mike is triggered.
Mike's triggered. Get to your safe space. Mike's safe space is behind his iPhone face recognition. He just puts the phone up to his face.
Read my tears. Read my tears.
The advice provided on this podcast is general advice only. All statements made are considered by the participants to be accurate, but accuracy cannot be guaranteed. It has been prepared without taking into account your objectives, financial situations, or needs. All participants in this podcast, including guests, may have a financial interest in any or all of the products or services mentioned. Before acting on this advice, you should consider the appropriateness of the advice, having regard to your own objectives, financial situations, and needs. If any private products are detailed on this podcast, you should obtain a product disclosure statement relating to the products and consider its contents before making any decisions. Where quoted, past performance is not indicative of future results.
Recorded November 10th, 2017. It's the Money Path Podcast with your hosts, Bob Iacchino and Mike Arnold, founders of Path Trading Partners. On episode 97, The What and the Why is sponsored by Motive Wave. Go to pathtradingpartners.com and download your 14-day free trial. So let's join Bob and Mike with the casual conversations on news in the markets.
On the new iPhone X, which I got on launch day unexpectedly because I didn't attempt to even get it on launch day, but it showed up on my doorstep. So I was one of those people, But I love Face ID. Face ID rocks for unlocking the phone. No issues with it. Love it. That's wonderful. Screen size, I love the screen. The screen's wonderful, except this is breaking news. Just coming across the wire in reference to the screen. iPhone X screen might freeze in cold weather, but Apple's fixing it. So, which is sort of ironic because it's really snowing outside, and I was just outside with my screen. It did not freeze, but I pulled it out of my pocket. But people are noticing that in cold weather, if you take it out, it just stops working. So, and Apple says the guidelines are, the comfort zones are 32 degrees to 95 degrees. Well, it was 20 degrees when I was walking the dogs this morning, so that's not going to work in Chicago. So I hope they fix that. Like the wireless charging, although that's also on the 8, but it's really handy to just put it on my wireless charger on my desk, and it charges without having to unplug it in.
Mike, what did that add to the cost of the wireless charger? That it did not come in the box. What did that add to the cost?
$19.
Okay, continue.
Yeah, I didn't. They mass produce them out of China, so wireless chargers. I could
It's an open standard then. You don't need Apple's thing.
Yes, no, it's the same ones that will charge all the Samsung phones and everything else.
Because you're the first person. You're the first person I've talked to that's bought this new sparkle dress. I mean, iPhone 10. So this is my first official review in person.
Do you know why I got it?
Because that Bob and I will not do that. And so you can run around going, I got it, I'm better.
I did it all for the show. No, my wife's phone was broken, and she does not want anything new. She does not want an iPhone X or even an iPhone 8 or anything. So I gave her my old phone, which worked perfectly and was better than her old phone that was not working properly. And I'm like, all right, well, you either have to get the 8 or the X, and so T-Mobile had a good deal. If I got the X and I got $300 worth of credit, so I just got the X. So
that was some good trading, huh? You
yes.
got those skills, trading. Well done.
Now,
so crummy things.
I hate the way you close apps now. You have to do this swipe up from the bottom of the screen, then you have to hold down. You have to do the sort of clickety-click, you push down on the thing, and then it gives an X on the apps, and then you have to hit the X on the apps. It's a really clunky way to close apps now. Hate it. For some reason, my data usage, because nothing's changed between what I was doing on my old phone and a new phone, and my data usage is quadrupled, so I don't know what's going on with that. I've even looked.
It's uploading.
Face ID.
Yeah, it's uploading faces that are walking past it.
Sending your faces to the NSA.
That's the CIA. Oh, Alexa's listening though. Alexa.
I'm not sure.
Alexa said she's not sure. Drop tests. If you've seen any drop tests like this thing, it's even more fragile than the 8. The back glass especially can shatter.
Can't get it.
Yes, I was thinking that when I saw some of the drop tests from the last week. I'm like, Bob's phone lasts approximately 10 minutes.
Yep.
So
my last, not this particular phone because I finally broke down and got a case, but my last phone, I got 6 screens. I spent over $600 replacing screens. I was like, Apple, you suck.
All right. Matt, the new silly iPhone X exclusive ringtone that comes, like, I'm like, the first time my phone rang, I'm like, what the hell is that? It's like this new, you're like to help you stand out from the crowd, like you have an iPhone and even if it's in your pocket, people can hear the new ringtone, like, hey, you must have the iPhone X. Really?
So that's going to be bag alert for anyone who still has that active.
Wait.
Yeah.
Did you try calling him?
Don't. How do I mute this thing? That's just in case you do. So to see what ringtone I still have on there. And emojis were fun for about the first 4 I sent, and then they're like, I like Joe making myself into giant talking poo and sending that to people, but that's like really that they really talk that up. It's fun for a couple things, and it's like, oh, okay. I keep accidentally triggering Siri because now it's a side button push, the on-off, or it's not really the on-off button, but it's the button that you can turn the phone on-off if you hit the up volume or down volume. I forget which one. But if you hit that thing 5 times, or if you just hit it once and hold it, Siri comes on. So like I keep my phone in my pocket, and all the time I'm launching Siri or trying to launch SOS, like I'm having an emergency. So I had to shut off that feature. That's me. But overall, I love the screen, love the Face ID. The screen is really nice because it's one that I couldn't go back to a smaller screen anymore.
Really?
And so is it a recommend?
If you're going
yes or no,
to
will
get,
be fine. Yes or no, will be fine.
Yes, but if you're going to get a phone because you broke your old one,
10.
as long as you're not Bob Iacchino, then I recommend it.
Okay, now on to the iPhone X review. That's a different phone, yes? Or is the iPhone 10 the iPhone X?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
iPhone X is the... What are you doing?
I'll cut that out. This
will
be cut very nicely. I don't have to worry about it. We'll have a nice Apple segment review that I can milk. Okay, on with the show. Don't worry.
Well, the most important thing is now Twitter officially expanded its character count to 280. That pretty much sums it up. We have the FANG futures contract officially launched.
The FANG did?
The FANG futures contract, which allows you to trade the underlying stocks in the FANG Plus futures contract and this is on the ICE exchange. Facebook, Apple, Amazon, Netflix, Google, Alibaba, Baidu, Nvidia, Tesla, and Twitter.
Tesla. That's the problem with that thing. I guess they needed some possibility that it went down. So they need a two-sided trade. They're like Las Vegas, looking for money on the other side. Let's put Tesla in there so that there's a possibility that this thing goes down.
So it doesn't just keep going vertical? Well,
yeah.
I don't know. We'll see about this, but that's the new FANG stocks. Let's see. What else? It traded like 70-something contracts the first day. I don't know. I haven't looked. It was Wednesday the 8th was the first day. So if you're interested, that's out there. And we're boring Bob Iacchino.
Okay.
Are you done yet?
I'm close.
So that's the important follow-up aspect of all these shows. So I'm done. You guys can take over from here.
Want to hear the worst thing ever for the future of the American economy?
What's that?
An amazing number of Baltimore high school students had 0 proficiency scores in math.
I saw that.
1/3 of Baltimore, Maryland high school students have 0 proficiency in math. 0. That was their score.
That's the scary thing. It was not like
that was their score.
Slight. It was 0.
It wasn't like they have a below average proficiency. They are officially rated as having 0 proficiency in math.
Which is not a good thing.
No. Overall in the country, the math proficiency scores have spiked about 60% since 2015. But there's been a significant drop in the last 12 months, or last 6 to 12 months on the East Coast for some reason.
Back to reality. This is very interesting. I guess Amazon has just money to burn because Amazon's now modifying the prices on other sellers' items ahead of the holiday ordering onslaught. They've started lowering prices by as much as 9% in recent weeks on goods offered by independent merchants on the site. So, if you're an independent seller, Amazon, you still get what you're going to charge minus their fees, but Amazon, if it thinks the price has to be lower, will eat the additional discounted cost. So now the new, quote, discount provided by Amazon tag allows Amazon to compete more fiercely with low-cost rivals, including Walmart stores and Dollar General. So they will modify the third-party seller's price and then eat the difference. That
whole thing has worked for them.
Yeah, that's their day one tactic.
They're like, yeah, we're going to lose money until we don't.
Well, they should do that with Whole Foods, and I want them to match the cheap grocery stores prices, and I'll shop only at Whole Foods. Tiffany and Company, $1,000 tin can. They
have a $1,000 tin can?
Yeah, this is in Food and Fashion Nook, by the way. You can pay Tiffany and Company $1,000 for a tin can. The Tiffany's new tin can, as its name implies, is just a tin can. However, it's from its line of everyday objects collection. This is a tin can that's, quote, upgraded in sterling silver and shining vermeil. And vermeil means it's gold plated on the inside. So
it's a former Philadelphia Eagles quarterback. I'm sorry, head coach Dick Vermeil.
Oh, okay. So there's your. We have a photo of it in your show notes, Bob. So you can have the everyday object tin can for $1,000. Are you getting one?
They were in the design room laughing, were they not? They were basically saying, let's do everyday items. We'll start with a tin can. Watch how many of these we sell. Watch how stupid these people are.
So you're not buying a tin can?
No, because actually I heard that the next release is the Tiffany's chainsaw accessory for the AK-15. AR-15.
AR-15.
Yeah, they're doing
is it gold-plated?
Tiffany's version. Yeah, it's a silver. No, because it's got to be, usable. So it's a sterling silver plated chainsaw accessory for the AR-15 from Tiffany's.
I do not know who's going to buy a $1,000 tin can. If you're
quick interview with somebody who walked out of a Tiffany's with the can. It was a investment banker type is what they're calling him in this interview in Inc. magazine. And he says he's going to put all his Mont Blanc pens in it on his desk.
Oh, jeez.
Okay, you win.
Yeah, you won life right there. You're gonna put a bunch of $2,000 pens into your $1,000 tin can.
He has a workbench with a can from the 20s that has old pencils from the 20s on it in his workbench, right? That's how weird that guy is, right?
Oh God, he's gonna put his expensive pens in there.
I actually have no comment on this. You've left me speechless. So, by the way, I skipped over because I was so anxious to get to the tin can that Jeff Bezos sold 1 million Amazon shares over the last 3 days or prior to this week, netting roughly $1.1 billion in proceeds. he still has 16.4% of the company's shares outstanding. So he just pocketed another $1 billion.
He's going to go into the lucrative can opener business.
Maybe he's going to buy a can.
Think how much that can opener costs.
It doesn't have a lid on it, though, for the can. So are you going to open the other side and then make it a useless can? In our phone is broken corner wearable, I just threw in because I was thinking just of Apple, because now my iPhone X screen will probably freeze when I walk outside. Apple's just ordering the Witherspoon and Jennifer Aniston drama. They outbid Netflix for the right to do the new Jennifer Aniston and Reese Witherspoon drama. So they are fighting with Netflix for original content and outbid them.
Okay, it's official. We do have a Mike Gossip Corner now. There's Tin Can Talk and Apple TV dramas, rom-coms.
It's not a rom-com, it's a drama. It's not a rom-com.
A drama.
Are you not going to watch it?
No.
Why is everybody getting into original content? Does everybody have to do original content?
Yeah, because the owners of the current content are just launching their own apps. It's getting too expensive, and you have to own these things for periods of time. Content is killing it.
Is it crushing it, though?
Yeah, I mean, this is what's funny. Again, the short-term costs of original content are being outweighed by the long-term gains of original content. The sort of 7-season binges, like HBO is now taking advantage of Sopranos to a whole new generation of people who never watched it. My nephew was away at college and started The Sopranos, and he's completely addicted. He's got his HBO app for that reason. And if you own the content, do that for years. Long-term play.
There we go. Here's another long-term play. Broadcom has offered to buy Qualcomm for a record $130 billion. They're proposed to buy Qualcomm for $7 a share in cash and stock. Qualcomm, did you hear any follow-up on this? They were poised to reject Broadcom's offer. And Broadcom now said it's willing to engage in a proxy fight. So that's a pretty big deal, Broadcom and Qualcomm. Have you heard anything about that, Bob?
No.
Well, you're all out of use.
I know, right?
Qualcomm looks like it's going to fight. They think they're worth more, even though that took their stock price from about $52.50 to $64 because it was offered at $70. Some of these companies that reject these things are ridiculous. So now here's a company that's going the wrong way again. Snap released earnings, third quarter earnings, revenue of 207.9, missed estimates of 235.5, GAAP net losses of $443 million, almost 3 times greater than the $124 million loss 1 year ago, adjusted earnings per share of 14 cents, EBITDA loss of $179 versus estimated $194. The company burned through $220 million in free cash flow, roughly the same as a year ago. So they're just burning their cash like no tomorrow. Their daily average users rose from 173 to 178 million, missing expectations of 180.5. This was quite fascinating. This came out in the with their earnings report. And a direct quote from it, there's a strong likelihood that they're redesigning their whole Snapchat app. There's a strong likelihood that the redesign of our application will be disruptive to our business in the short term, and we don't yet know the behavior of our community will change when they begin to use our updated application.
They can't turn themselves into bunnies.
So what they're doing, the app will still open the camera or reportedly no longer separate your friends' messages and stories in the tabs to the left and the right. Instead, the redesign will bundle user communities in a feed to the left. To the right will crowdsource stories for music, sports, and global events, along with contents from Snapchat's media partners like MTV and CNN.
So they're trying to become Facebook.
They're just saying their stuff's not really... Their stuff's too confusing. Here's the other thing. One thing we have heard over the years is Snapchat is difficult to understand or hard to use. this is not something you'd want to hear with an earnings release when you missed big, and it's like, we're just going to redesign everything, and we don't know how our current users are going to accept it, and we don't know if it'll actually get new users.
Yeah.
And so Snap was downgraded to underweight JP Morgan with a price target of 10. RBC downgraded Snap to sector perform at 15. Right now the stock's at 12.34. Then it bounced a bit when they said Tencent bought 145.8 million shares. Well, they bought 12.1% of the outstanding shares, but Tencent has money to burn at this point. Some of their things they throw money at, I wouldn't be throwing money at, so I don't think that's a big positive. But stock got up to the top of the weekly rotation zone, rotating back down. We're looking for the next target on that to be 1150.
It's funny when I hear these kinds of stories. You see this over and over again now in the current sort of digital economy, is the people who have this sort of creative vision to engineer things like this in their brain and then turn them into reality, like Snap, like GoPro, like to a certain degree Tesla. Why, once they IPO, why those guys don't take some of that money and offer it to a seasoned CEO from the first day? I mean, I believe Snap is a company that's structured like this. If you own Snap stock, you just own the stock. You have no voting rights. You have nothing. You just have their stock. You have no say in the company at all. And the shares were presented that way to investors, and they still bought them. It's not like buying a share where you have a proxy vote or a vote at all. You have nothing. You just, if it goes up, you can sell it higher. That's it. So the company IPO'd in such a way that the shareholders have no say. They don't even appoint a board. Like the board of Snap can't fire the CEO. They have no say over it. The board it's basically for show. So, again, this is the issue with these kinds of companies. It went through it at Uber. Thankfully, Uber was something that people could understand. It's a taxi service, right? For the most part. Rideshare. It was an easy thing to understand, but you don't redesign your rideshare service. You might redesign your app, but Snap's about to redesign their whole service. They're not sure how their users, and Mike, you said they missed on user growth?
Yep.
They're not sure how the current users are going to like it, and they missed on users. This is just stupid.
Yeah, this is one we're staying away. Well, we've never said we should go into it because it's in our mock going to zero corner.
Right.
In Stafford's favorite company, Disney, came out with earnings this week. Earnings.
I was watching videos on YouTube on the building of the monorail.
Is that Elon? Did he build that?
All popsicle sticks and glue. All black and white videos of building the monorail in California, and then the bigger one out in Florida.
Disney's Q4 earnings per share 107 versus estimates of 114. Revenue also missing 12.8 billion, expected 13.1 billion. Cable networks revenue is down 3.95 billion versus estimates of 4 billion. Stocks up big though last couple of days. They just announced tons of layoffs, especially at ESPN, which Disney owns. So I think that's what it's moving up on, because it's gone from when they released earnings, it was trading about 101. Now it's up to 105.50 off the layoff announcements. So that's our Disney update. Maybe they need the new Star Wars film to help them.
I can't keep up. It's almost like every single time we talk about a Star Wars film. Like, is this the same new one over and over again?
There's one a year now.
Is there? It's just awful.
Yeah, it's so bad.
Star Wars is supposed to be special.
No. No.
Yes, it's supposed to be special.
No.
Mike, during the course of this podcast, Mike, please let me know your opinion on Netflix's chart.
Netflix?
Yeah.
All right. Let me do that right now.
Let's do that right now.
Before we jump
into autonomous driving court.
No, before we got to touch on Crude first, because we're going to get rid of Crude.
How about I rant on Crude and you come back with what you think of Netflix?
What? I can already see it. I could already see it.
Which one?
It's
my Crude rant or Netflix?
No. I can already see that it's triggering a double top.
Okay.
You could trade it on either the daily or weekly. It's against the rotation zone on the weekly. But let's see where the target is, because that's the important thing. So it's slightly lower probability because of where it is, but we got to get it. Our target. Really?
What? So Crude oil.
Yeah, think or swim. Can I get rid of Thinker? Oh, they ruined it. Developers who aren't traders should not.
I know, right?
It's like, oh, look at these. We ruined it for all the people who trade with our. So it is all the targets. The 2 profit targets are beyond the rotation zone. I'd look at this on the daily based off the targets. If it looks like it's going to trigger today on the daily, the stop reduction target is 184.36. The first profit target 181.03. Second profit target 177.69.
Okay.
There you go. Now, what's going on with Crude? Because I have some targets still on Crude.
Are they upside targets?
Yes.
I'm going to go very briefly into what happened because my why is why it matters. Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, Mohammed bin Salman Al Saud, he replaced his cousin a little while back, his older cousin. His father is a king. He burst upon the scene last year, really. He was 32 years old. He was put in charge of an anti-corruption probe, and he essentially had 3 of the 10 richest Arab men in the world arrested, along with 201 other persons. Multiple princes and entrepreneurs and business executives in Saudi Arabia have been detained. Now, just because they're being detained in the Ritz-Carlton in Riyadh does not mean this is not serious. It's a nice detention center, but it's an extremely serious thing. Again, he is the head of an anti-corruption probe. Numbers that are being thrown about is around $100 billion in embezzled funds being looked into, bribery, just straight up classic embezzlement, etc. It's being looked upon, first of all, it's being called the Saudi Purge. It's being looked upon by opponents of the prince and really just the media in general as being a consolidation of power. The way that the Saudi family has ruled since 1932 has been to get a consensus of the many thousands of princes that they have in one direction, and then kind of pay off the rest so that it looks like the family is just sort of all agreeing. If I were one of those princes, I'd disagree with everything. That would be my job. Anyway, it's being seen as a consolidation of power. Now, this particular crown prince, again, bin Salman, is a huge proponent of types of reforms that are not very popular. He almost single-handedly repealed the rule or had the rule repealed for women to be able to drive. So he's responsible for women driving in Saudi Arabia currently. He wants to move away from fossil fuels as being the number one supplier of revenue, or at least the only supplier of revenue to the kingdom. He's really big on reforms and opening up the economy and et cetera. Technology, he wants Riyadh to become a fintech and a tech hub. He has a lot of opponents in these things. One of the people that got arrested was Mohammed bin Talal bin Al-Aweed, who is the billionaire who's known best for having, he's a prince also, he's known for best for having bailed out Citigroup in 1991. He bailed out an entire U.S. mega bank with his own money. Made a lot of money on that trade. He was arrested, and he's been kind of a really high-profile Saudi prince for a long, long time. So the gist of this was crude oil Brent crude jumped 3.3% that day. That would be Monday. This happened on Sunday. And WTI jumped about 3.1%, and they haven't given any of that back as of yet. It's just kind of been going sideways along that 3% extension today we've got, as we speak, this is Friday around 11 Central Time, we've got WTI down about 1%. We've got Brent down a little over 0.75%. But this is a very important development. It shot crude oil higher. I'll go into my why as to why it's so important. It's pretty clever. I'll go into my why as to why it was so important. Why this matters. There's been no disruption of the supply of crude. There's been no effect on crude demand in the Middle East, nothing. This is simply a geopolitical event, and it drove crude much higher. 2.5-year highs, basically, on Brent to WTI. That is what's going on in crude.
Well, I have major support coming in at 54, and my next GAN and 200-week moving averages are virtually coming in at the same area of 58.50. Mm-hmm. So that is the next upside target. Then beyond that, 60.75. If we can get through to 58.50. So that's what I'm watching for. But if we do pull back, 54 is very key support. We have a rising rotation zone just below that, and we have a prior breakout zone. So that is how I am looking at crude.
This is a very important geopolitical event for crude oil. Surprising, too. Very surprising. It was a shock to the market.
You know what? If I was a prince in Saudi Arabia, I'd be Prince. Been there, done that.
Were you working on that the whole time I was talking about crude oil?
Well, it's like everything was Mohammed bin, and I'm like, all right, I'll be Prince. Been there, done that. So electric and self-driving car segment. Renault. This is where I can't get over this. We're talking Renault. All right. I still have flashbacks to the Renaults of the 80s, and that was not a car you'd ever want to get in. No. But Renault showing off self-driving cars that can avoid obstacles as well as pro-test drivers. So the car in autonomous mode was able to successfully avoid these obstacles on the professional test drivers at cones at 27 miles per hour. So it's this self-driving stuff's picking up speed quickly.
27 miles an hour was the test speed?
Well, that's where it can avoid obstacles when it's going up to 27 miles per hour, like real-time obstacles. You know, we've talked about their driverless ride-hailing service. Now, 100 of the company's self-driving Chrysler Pacifica minivans are now driving around Chandler, Arizona, which is a suburb of Phoenix, without a human driver anymore. So there's no human driver in it whatsoever. These they're still geo-fenced, which means they can only go in a certain area. Like they can't go outside certain boundaries, like into downtown Phoenix, because all these roads are mapped and everything's on it. But there's literally, you can summon them with an app. They will come pick you up, and as long as your destination's in the geo-fence, they'll take you there and drop you off. And there's no driver in them. Now we have do you have your calendars marked for November 16th?
Mm-hmm.
What's your calendar marked for November 16th for?
It's a Tuesday.
No, but that is way more important than what's with all these companies like Tuesdays, like Apple. I don't know, but Tesla's electric semi-truck reveal confirmed for November 16th.
Who cares?
Yeah. Well, let's see.
Just another vehicle they can't deliver.
Well, they can't produce a Model 3. Then they're going to try to produce a semi-truck. So that's everybody who cares about the new semi-truck, which is supposed to have 200, 300 miles per range per charge. And
the problem is you can only carry a truck full of fresh batteries across the country and deliver empty batteries.
So it's a battery delivery truck. You start with all the batteries fully charged, you get to your destination to drop off the batteries, and they're all drained.
You pick up a new set of fresh batteries, and you drive across the country. Simple.
Well, it can only go 220 miles according to these stuff, but so you can get across. You can't get across the country very fast, but
another vehicle he can't deliver.
Oh, well, speaking of not delivery, Tesla, people have analyzed all this stuff and it's said to make about 180 Model 3 cars in October. So they're up to 180 more. That brings it to 440 units to date.
Wow.
You can't call this a production vehicle. I think Ferrari makes more cars.
This is $1,000 tin can shenanigans.
And then they announced this week they're buying the automation company Prebix to mitigate production delays. Tesla is buying private machine company Prebix, possibly a bid to mitigate the woes of the car manufacturer announced last week when it blamed a $619 million quarterly loss on production bottlenecks. Prebix has been supplying Tesla with parts for nearly 3 years, but the acquisition will allow the company to produce more parts in-house. There you have them. They're not a car. They're not anything company. Oh, this just came out too. Well, we were on the show. The Bernstein analyst finds Tesla Model 3s. They just had a big event in Brooklyn today for like a ringed off event for analysts and everything else to see their new Model 3s. And Bernstein analyst finds Tesla Model 3s fit and finish relatively poor after test drive. Quote, we had the opportunity to see the test drive the Model 3 at Tesla's showroom in Red Hook, Brooklyn. Fit and finish on the 2 demo cars we saw, perhaps not surprisingly, was relatively poor. While we doubt that it would impact most prospective buyers, we do worry that poor overall initial quality could undermine Tesla's brand and potentially overwhelm its service network.
Wow.
And they come in with their $265 price target, down from where it's trading right now at $304.29. Still not triggered our double top yet.
What's the double top? 303?
Well, yeah, but I'm wanting to close below 300.
Okay.
Because so many people are keying off that round number principle.
Yeah.
I'm waiting for that close below 300. But the good news is the 50-week moving average is now out of the way. So once we get that close below 300, it should be good to go for the eventual return to 220. Okay. Bitcoin's a new asset class, not a cryptocurrency. CME's Melamed.
Leo Melamed.
Melamed. See, I don't pronounce names.
That's okay. We all have our functions. We all have our functions.
Yeah. Now, this is because they're rolling out their Bitcoin futures. The CME will be rolling out their Bitcoin futures. But Melamed was talking about, this is a very important step for Bitcoin's history. We will regulate, make Bitcoin not wild, not wilder. We'll tame it into regular type instrument of trade with rules. So they're going to tame the Bitcoin.
Yeah, I don't understand what he even means by it's not a cryptocurrency, it's an asset class. I don't even know what he means by that. So the minute you have a futures contract, it's now not what it is. It's an asset class. It didn't even make sense to me. But he is right.
Remember when they had egg futures?
Yeah. And they had broiler chickens for a while.
Broiler chickens and eggs. So that could be asset classes.
I know. They're not chickens anymore. They're not eggs anymore. They're an asset class.
They're an asset class.
I don't understand the comment. Yeah, I was on WGN Radio, which is a local radio station. I believe it broadcasts a lot of places other than the U.S. Is that right, Stafford? I think it goes outside of Chicago, does it not?
50,000 watts.
It was the first superstation. Superstation when radio went federal with licenses. Mm-hmm. They were the first station to have a national distribution for local content.
All right, so it is recorded broadcast locally. So I went into the studio to talk about Bitcoin, and the host, John Williams, super nice guy, really entertaining guy, was talking to me, and he's like, "Well, why would I want Bitcoin? It certainly is not a reason." When Leo says that we're going to tame it, all he means is institutions can now get involved. As I mentioned last week, one of the reasons that the Bitcoin ETF got shut down by the SEC is there was nowhere to hedge the risk. So I actually think that particular decision triggered the CME to take what they had been looking at for quite a while. They launched their 2 Bitcoin indexes November of last year, so that those things have been around for about a year. They said, okay, we've been watching this. Now let's actually launch it. and it'll get approved, and there'll be Bitcoin ETFs, and the volume will steadily grow. I think there's going to be a whole cryptocurrency futures quadrant at the CME Group, and I think it's going to be wildly successful.
Interesting. Well, they also, the CME, speaking of that, they also announced their Bitcoin future circuit breakers, which is pretty interesting because the Bitcoin trading limits would kick in when the price of Bitcoin futures move. The first one's 7%, the next one's 13%, the final one's 20% up or down from the previous day's closing price. The first two, the 7 and 13% moves, are soft limits, which would trigger a 2-minute pause in trading of Bitcoin futures. The 20% limit would be a hard stop on how far the CME's Bitcoin futures could swing in a day. We've seen 20% moves in Bitcoin, so it's going to be interesting with those circuit breakers.
Yeah. Hey, Mike, remember when a while back, maybe a year ago, you and one of the subscribers to our YouTube channel with the cryptocurrency stuff had noticed a particular large buyer or large seller moving those things all at once in different currencies at different times?
Yeah.
I believe you didn't find anything tradable, correct me if I'm wrong, but you noticed something. That will now be Goldman Sachs. So if the cryptocurrency futures quadrant actually becomes a reality, because now you're going to have a Bitcoin ETF. It just won't work anymore. There won't be any one individual user or trader of cryptocurrencies that can move them quickly, because the futures will need to move respective to that, and they won't.
It's going to be interesting to see how all this plays out, and then see if they expand to some other things. Because again, we're getting another fork in Bitcoin this weekend, or Bitcoin Gold. So. It's going to break. It's going to be very interesting. Another why you still have to be careful in the crypto world. A coding mistake freezes up to 280 million in digital currency. The digital wallet company Payday is warning users that a large volume of Ethereum funds have effectively been frozen after a code contributor, DevOps 199's, claims to have accidentally deleted the library needed to use a multi-signature wallets. After July 20th, and all those funds are sort of, you can't get to them anymore. If you stored them in your wallet and it was a multi-signature access fund, they deleted the code library, so it essentially turned them into vaporware. Mm-hmm. They're still trying to recover it, but at this point, the currency in your wallet is no more. So you still got to be careful out there. And then this came out this week. The IRS says it detected, quote, a reporting gap, end quote, between the 500,000 virtual currency users in Coinbase. So Coinbase has to report to the IRS, if you're a U.S. Taxpayer and you have a Coinbase account. So there's 500,000 virtual currency users in Coinbase reported from 2013 to 2015, and less than 900 Bitcoin users reporting gains or losses. Oops. Oops. So IRS is going after Bitcoin traders who've made profits and not reported them. That's going to get very interesting, because there's a lot of people who have made profits and not reported anything.
Yeah, that's I love Monero. Go ahead.
That's all I have on the Bitcoin news. Although I haven't checked up on the hard or the Bitcoin Gold, which is rolling out again this weekend, I think. So I'll have to follow up on that.
Hey, you know what today is, Mike?
Friday.
You know what else it is?
November 10th.
You know what else it is? I can do this all day because you're not going to guess. It is Bernie Madoff victim payday.
What?
Yeah, the start of the payouts to the Bernard Madoff victims. I remember he was arrested 9 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah, today is the day that they start getting their money back. And believe it or not, they're expected to get approximately 75% of their money.
Ah.
Now, I'm going to assume, I don't know this for a fact, so don't quote me, but I'm going to assume they're getting 75% of their original principal.
Yes.
Because you can't get any of the gains.
Right.
Not the fake paperwork.
Yeah. But they recovered $4 billion. And the vast majority of it is coming from one investor's gains. 1.7, I think it was 1.7 billion or so, was profits that one early investor got. He actually ended up making more than Bernie Madoff did off of the Ponzi scheme. So his estate, and again, I don't want to mention his name. You guys can look it up if anybody's interested. But his estate actually is paying, I think, about 1.7 of that $4 billion.
Huh. Why'd you mention? Did you see the HBO movie The Wizard of Lies?
I loved it.
That was good.
I loved it. Robert De Niro was perfect.
That was a really good. If anybody hasn't seen that and wants to get a good synopsis and recap of the Madoff scandal, that was a very well done HBO movie. Why did you bring that up right after cryptocurrencies?
No connection. If there would have been cryptocurrencies, though, I think they would have recovered a lot less Monero.
They would have. I think there might be more coding mistakes that mysteriously, oh, look, the funds are gone. And Bitcoin Gold is set to go live this weekend. So when people are listening to this weekend, Bitcoin Live, 7 p.m. UTC on November 12th. That's when Bitcoin Live officially goes. So, or Bitcoin Gold officially goes live. U.S. economy segment?
Yes.
What's going on with our U.S. economy? I just have one.
There wasn't much this week at all.
Well, the GDP Now model from the Atlanta Fed comes in. It's down from 4.5 to 3.3% for fourth quarter 2017. Anything else?
5 was insane.
Huh? Yeah, I know.
4.5 was insane.
We're not growing at 4.
I mean, what was wrong with them?
Yeah, well, who's retiring early from the Fed?
Dudley.
Yeah.
He's retiring early. He was due to retire in February of, I believe, 19. So he's not retiring that early. I could be wrong about that year, but he's not retiring that early. It's only a few months early, and he's committed to stay on until there's a replacement. So it's not really that big of a deal. But it's going to be a completely different Federal Reserve board in like 6 months.
It's getting out. Well, the getting's good.
Yeah, I mean, who can blame them? You think about it. I mean, things are good. They're still not good historically, just so everybody knows. But they're good versus the last 10, 11 years. By the way, we did miss on University of Michigan consumer sentiment today. The estimate was 100.9. It came out 97.8. Anyway, yeah. But the exit is happening. The exit from QE and the exit from low interest rates, zero interest rates, is happening. And these guys can say, yeah, we stewarded the economy. Our stewardship was very well received. And then I left, and wow, the guy after me really screwed it all up. This is leaving like when Jordan retired after that shot in Utah, where he just posed in that shot, the game-winning shot, and then he retires. Then he came back and made an ass of himself. But prior to that first retirement was spectacular. That's what this is. That's Michael Jordan for all you millennials.
Anything in international markets?
Brexit negotiations are going terrible. Terrible. Theresa May has lost 2 members of her cabinet in the last week. Also today, it came out that the EU is demanding no physical border with Northern Ireland, even though Northern Ireland is staying in the EU, which is just a complete impossibility. I mean, you can't have a customs union and a single market and no border, because you'll be going into a foreign country and doing business with no border, no physical border. You know, right now they're both in the EU. It didn't matter. You don't have customs. You don't have any. It's all the same market. But so they're starting to put out like these sort of insurmountable demands. That's a demand with no solution. I mean, I don't think the UK is going to run out and build a wall, for lack of a better pun, between them and Northern Ireland. But the EU is demanding that they don't do that. So Brexit is kind of saying, well, we'll force Brexit on Northern Ireland as well. And the EU is actually saying, guess what? You still don't have to Brexit. There's some EU officials that have said that they should re-vote on the referendum in the UK and cancel Brexit. That's starting to kind of swish its way around. Most of the ECB board governors, you never really hear much about anybody talking other than Draghi, but Peter Pratt, Collier, it's another guy. They have all been saying the same thing. Accommodation is staying. We'll leave accommodation in place as long as possible. That's all Draghi's ever said. So you can just either believe that A, they all follow Draghi's lead, or B, they all believe what Draghi believes. Either way, there's no removal of accommodation in the near future for the euro. That's about it for me. Stephen Pallot's in Canada. Mikey, your home country, also very dovish in terms of Canadian interest rates. So we have the most hawkish central bank in the world right now, and that is not saying much.
That is not saying much.
No, that is not saying much.
It was interesting on the euro US dollar triggered a pretty massive head and shoulders top. So, hey, Bob, what's your why?
Today's edition of The What and the Why is brought to you by Motive Wave Software. Motive Wave Software is a well-established developer of easy-to-use, full-featured charting, analysis, and trading software built for the individual trader. Motive Wave offers the best charting tools used by the pros, such as Elliott Wave, Fibonacci, Gartley, Gannon ratio analysis, but it's presented in a very easy-to-use way. Motive Wave has a product to fit any budget and any trading style, and one of the very best features, it's available on Windows and Mac. So go to pathtradingpartners.com right now to get your 14-day free trial, and then visit them at motivewave.com.
So my why goes back to the Saudi Purge, and why the Saudi Purge, while it does not affect supply and demand at all, why would crude oil spike so high? So one of the things that will always affect the price of crude oil to the positive, meaning the price will go higher, is geopolitical instability in the Middle East. This is instability, although it could potentially lead to more stability. It really is a matter of how the Crown Prince deals with the corruption charges that haven't even been levied yet. There's been no official charges that I've heard of. So at least when I was looking at it last, which was last night, there were no official charges levied. The only thing I saw that was sort of dramatic was the $100 billion US number of potential embezzled funds, and the talk that the King Salman, was going to abdicate the throne and give it to the Crown Prince. That's a rumor. It's not confirmed, but that was something else that I read last night. So why does this affect crude oil prices? It's because of the particular person that's been put in charge of this corruption investigation, and the fact that he is the future leader of Saudi Arabia, and the fact that he is a massive Iran hawk. He is very anti-Iran, Iranian influence, the Iran regime. Very, very anti. Now, you start putting those pieces together, and you start seeing the potential for something very serious. The Crown Prince, Mohammed bin Salman, was the architect, one of the main architects of the breaking of diplomatic relationships between Saudi Arabia and Qatar. Most people refer to as Qatar. He's the chief architect of that. And the reason behind that was Qatar's relationship with Iran. Now, Qatar has to have a relationship with Iran because on their border, they share a massive natural gas field. And they share the proceeds and they share the natural resources from that field. So it's not necessarily that Qatar, or Qatar as it's properly pronounced, is actually in cahoots with Iran, but they certainly have a relationship that needs to stay cordial. The prince didn't like that, and he cut diplomatic ties with Qatar, and that was supported by the current White House. There's been a bit of a bromance between the Saudi royal family in charge, meaning the king and the crown prince, and the Trump administration. Obviously, the current White House does not like Iran, with what I think is pretty good reason. So when you start putting all these things together, oh, by the way, also, he is the de facto leader of the Saudi military, the crown prince, and he is running the war in Yemen, which is being viewed as Saudi Arabia versus Iran. It's not being viewed as Yemen versus rebels. It's a proxy war between Saudi Arabia and Iran. So therein lies the issues. There's also this idea that this particular 32-year-old millennial crown prince is a reformer in a very big way. He's quieted the religious police in Saudi Arabia to a level we haven't seen in our lifetimes. And again, he allowed women to drive, and he is a proponent of allowing women to go out in public with their faces exposed and their hair exposed. He's a proponent of all this. So he's being seen as much as you can say this about an ethnic Saudi, he's being seen as somewhat of a feminist as well. So he has detractors, he has enemies, he seems to have rounded them all up. Now, whether this particular crown prince is trying to move the Saudi government to a more global sort of structure, or whether he's trying to seize the Saudi government is the key to this. If he's trying to seize it in an effort to eradicate, that's probably too strong a word, but to eradicate Iranian influence in the region, it could get really hot there. Remember that Iran produces a ton of oil, 3.7 million barrels a day. Iraq, around 4 million barrels a day. Saudi Arabia, over 11 million barrels a day. These particular countries involved in a physical conflict is the effect. That's the supply and demand effect in crude oil. That's where that 3% came from. Now, if these things were certain, crude oil would be up 10%. It's up 3% and not really falling back. We're getting a little bit of a sell-off today, but I would assume that's just people taking advantage of the profits that they currently have. The second part to this equation is that we've got backwardation in the crude oil curve now, which means that the further out contracts are lower in price. Now, you would think that that would be kind of negative to producers who wanted to hedge. But because the overall price in the curve is higher, it's actually pretty advantageous. The backwardation is not dramatic. It's 10 to 15 cents. And this, you could actually see a potential turnaround in U.S. rig counts in the coming months. It's not going to happen today. It's not going to happen next week. But currently, we've got, I think, 13 of 16 down months in rig counts. And those 3 that were not down were up 1, flat, and up 1. It's essentially a downtrend in U.S. rig counts for crude oil. If we start to see a lot of hedging, which we're seeing some, you could see those rig counts rise. So higher prices, potential for more U.S. production, potential for reduced OPEC production. This, to me, is all a recipe for higher crude prices and higher energy stocks. The energy sector is becoming a favorite of mine as this plays out. Again, we got to see what charges are levied, if any, and if this is an actual corruption probe or just a sort of a campaign of intimidation by the crown prince. So that's my why. That's why crude oil went up so hard.
Fantastic. That was very informative.
Thank you, brother.
I don't really have a what besides Blue Apron going to 0.
Blue Apron's going to 0. Netflix possibly going off of a double top. Tesla possibly triggering a double top.
We'll see. Have you seen Blue Apron's price? We didn't talk about their earnings last week, did we?
No, we didn't.
Oh, I'll just recap.
Make that your what?
Huh?
Make that your what?
Well, my what is their loss. They lost again 47 cents versus expected loss of 42 cents. Revenue came in higher, 210.6 million versus 191.5 million, but they are losing customers. Now, the customers are still spending slightly more, although it is down from the previous quarter from 245 from 251, but they are losing their third quarter users shrank 6% from the year ago quarter and 9% from the previous quarter. So they are losing customers. That is not good. And their stock traded down to $3.03. So it debuted at 10, traded up to 11, and now it's at 3. I think this is literally like, this has to be in the top 5 worst performing IPOs ever.
Awful.
I will not touch this company. Somebody will probably buy it at some point. I mean, if it gets to 50 cents, Amazon will probably buy it for some reason. Oh, by the way, just another follow-up, because I was reading some more because we talked about that Tesla event.
Mm-hmm.
Here's some more stuff from CNBC. The analyst found a misalignment of the Model 3's glass roof, body panel gaps, rubber trim issues around the windows, and misaligned seams in the interior ceiling of the car, according to his notes. Quote, our inspection revealed widespread shortcomings in fit and finish. Tesla representative acknowledged some of the fit issues, but stated that they believed the Model 3 was much farther ahead than where the Model X and S had been at this point in production. Quote, and here's another quote. Quote, we do find these statements credible. We can't help noting that Tesla likely chose to share with us the highest quality, best assembled units. So issues on other cars may be even more pronounced. These are... that's not good for Tesla.
All right. Cool, guys. I got to run.
Okay.
I will talk to you guys next week.
All right. Talk to you. Bye.